Hello and welcome to AEF TV in association with Engerati. I'm joined by David Taylor-Smith from Aggreko, the Regional Managing Director for Europe EMEA. Let's just go for that. David, thank you for making the time to be here and here at the studio. And we were talking a little bit off air about some of the themes that you were picking up. And one of the things you said you'd like to talk about is why it's important to look at Africa and the type of investment that Africa needs as well. Mm-hmm. So, seeing as you said that's what you want to talk about, I'll let you do exactly that.
No, delighted to do that. Yeah. So I thought it'd be useful just to give a few views of why Africa's interesting to Aggreko. I think it's got a unique combination, which is probably the most pronounced in any area of the world in our experience, which is very high growth rates. And that is fueling increased demand for power. And that isn't just for economic growth and employment reasons, but it's also for alleviation of poverty and access to electricity for social improvement. And then on the other side, got very severe power generation, transmission and distribution issues. So I think the combination of both of those extremes make it extremely interesting. I think it also makes it extremely interesting because compared to, say, developed markets, which have legacy fixed infrastructure, it also means that countries and regions of countries are completely open-minded to new ways of doing things. And I think put all that together, and it means you can have some quite unique models and opportunities here that you would just have no chance of having a discussion in a developed market.
That's what I hear a lot of, because also where you've got the complete sort of different regions, you've got places like maybe Johannesburg, Cape Town or whatever, where you could put in a Western style thinking of mentality straight away, but as soon as you get more rural, then you still need the power. And one of the interesting points, I interviewed the person behind Abu Art, and she was saying, well, her artists are saying, actually, I need more power because at the moment I can only paint for 3 hours a day, and I'd like to do more because I want to get better. So how do you? What are the most innovative models that you've seen in your experience that have been applied, where people would go, well, that's interesting, or we could even learn something from?
So, I mean, I'll be a little bit selfish and talk about it from Aggreko's standpoint. We've just commissioned in Mozambique a pretty unique model, which I think the chances of it happening anywhere else in the world are quite remote, which is to take gas, domestic gas from Mozambique, monetize that gas, for domestic power consumption.
How are you monetizing it?
So we're using gas produced in Mozambique then to produce power in Mozambique.
Okay.
But also unusually that our power plant's sitting in Mozambique, but we're also supplying it to Namibia and to South Africa.
Okay.
So again, pretty unusual. Yeah, a project brought online in 21 weeks, but not only the opportunity to monetize local gas, but also to wheel it into other countries. And I think, that provides a hint of opportunity. So if you look across Africa with the exploration of gas, and in many of instances gas is being found and it's hard to monetize it because a lack of fixed infrastructure and the economics of fixed infrastructure to bring that to market and then connect it to the grid by traditional means. I think there's a very unique model where you can provide an opportunity for the gas producer then to monetize that, so they're happy. Turn that gas into domestic power, which is usually a high priority in the country, instead of exporting it, so the country of origin is normally happy, and then either using that domestically or seeing if it's a possibility of wheeling it to more than one country. And
when you say wheeling it to more than one country, there was I read a report about a month ago for Ernst & Young, and they did a survey of I think 500 CEOs or that sort of level, people looking at investment in Africa. And the second most important thing by a country mile behind the issues around transparency and regulation and all that was infrastructure.
Yep.
So you say, so it's interesting when you say, oh, we can wheel it around,
yep.
but isn't in there a big problem, because the infrastructure to wheel things around also, especially cross-country,
yep.
needs a lot of investment as well, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think you can't just look at that issue at a country level, because within countries there are transmission issues, and there's not obviously a connected grid throughout Africa, but there are a number of regional grids where power sharing and generation arrangements have been in place for some time, and I think those are the areas where there is opportunity. And I think there's opportunity for those countries to expand and make those arrangements more sophisticated, and to purchase power generation and look at distribution as an economic region rather than a single country. So, and that of course helps alleviate the cost of investment if it's shared amongst a number of countries as well.
Because that was another point that was made a couple of times yesterday. It's just like where one country may have a lot of hydro potential.
Yeah.
Hydro alone can't do everything. Yep. Whereas another country, maybe like South Africa, has got a lot of coal potential. Yep. Creating those linkages
Absolutely.
Actually makes a heck of a lot of sense.
I mean, and that's a good example. So Mozambique, with the Rovuma Basin, which is, every time they assess the size of the deposits there, they go up.
Right.
So they're rich in gas deposits, and it's an opportunity for them to not only use that domestically, but then also utilise it for distribution, both in raw form, but also in terms of power, to the South African power pool, which is 9 countries, which is good for Mozambique, and it's good for the countries within the South African power pool.
Absolutely, and we've just back to a situational question, seeing as we are at Africa Energy Forum, and we're at the second day, so I can ask you this question. Yep. You aren't my first interview before the whole conference has started. Yep. Well, if I could turn you into a reporter for a second,
yep.
and I say, and you've consumed all the sessions.
Yep.
2 questions. One is, what's the most sort of interesting and encouraging thing you've heard?
Yep.
And the second question is, what's the most disappointing thing you've heard, in the sense that, oh, we're still talking about this, I can't believe we haven't moved on?
Well, I can give a lens of 25 years of doing business in Africa, and that lens would say 25 years ago it was pretty difficult to do business in Africa in most places. Now, of course, South Africa's been open for business during that period, and is an easy place to do business. But if you look beyond that, and I would exclude some areas in North Africa, there have been, it has not been the easiest continent to do business. Now, if I looked at the ministers that spoke yesterday, they all see private sector participation as key to their policy. All of them have an evidence of track record in that area, and that is extremely encouraging. And I think the net benefit to that to individual countries will be their cost of borrowing and access to funds should come down as they build by volume and length of time, successful track record of attracting inward investment and then honouring commitments around that inward investment. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would say, when viewed through a 25-year lens, is a huge difference. What's the biggest area of disappointment? I don't think it's disappointment. I think there remains this challenge that individual ministers have, I think, some of the most challenging briefs on energy on the planet, that they're trying to balance growth, which is in some instances 10 times quicker than the Eurozone, and then trying to do that with legacy infrastructures and power generation, which is being outstripped. And you can see it's key to their economic development as a country, that they've got to keep up with demand.
No, I get a sense of that. We interviewed a couple of ministers yesterday, and there was a real feeling when they were sat here of how am I going to do this? And then balancing the political aspect, because you can't depoliticize energy entirely. No. You know, there's that whole political pressure as well.
No, I think the ministers here, their job description compared to in developed countries, you know, in the Eurozone or something, I mean, they have an easy time. They might think it's difficult switching to renewables getting up to 20%, but the briefs of the ministers here are the most challenging on the planet.
So do you think that our energy ministers could learn a bit by going and spending some time with these energy ministers in terms of that?
I think one of the upsides of having perhaps lack of infrastructure is it means you don't have to deal with legacy reform issues. You're not trying to break things up and reorganise. In some instances, you can just leapfrog over that. And I think a good parallel industry where that's happened and kind of gives a hint of what the future could look like is telecoms.
Yeah,
and if you look at telecoms across Africa, you've got every possible configuration of government and private and fixed and wireless and local and regional and national and supranational, and
they leapfrog technology,
and it's managed to leapfrog technology, as you say. And I think that is what is happening in power. The countries are using a mixed approach where they don't have to worry that they've got a 25-year concession and they've got some legacy infrastructure that they need to treat carefully on the balance sheet of Treasury, and they've got the opportunity to invent a mixed economy of from scratch. I mean, look at yesterday, the Minister for South Africa talking about their renewables program.
Yeah.
That was, the renewables, the wind turbines being put up in South Africa last year were the biggest in the world. Incredible. And they've got the opportunity to do that.
Exactly, and they're driving quite an interesting mix. David, I'm afraid we're coming to the end of our time here. No it's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish we had more time, but as I said to you earlier, we're going for the record today, so we're doing 18 interviews. If I fall short, I might get you back, and we could do another one.
Delighted.
David, thanks for taking the time.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you as well for watching.